Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another Fraud Watch Friday. We are glad that you're here, and joining me, as is his usual, is our volunteer fraud expert, Kay Tomlinson. Hi, Kay. How's things going this morning?
Going very well this morning. Thanks, Bruce.
And we are going to be talking about a very important subject today. It's Medicare fraud. And as you probably know, October is Medicare Open Enrollment Month. It starts this month, started now. And so this is a topic very important to AARP and AARP members. And so Kay has been putting together a presentation on that. So Kay, if you would like to take it away.
Yes, thank you, Bruce. And thank you again, all of you, for joining us. This is a really important topic that I have to admit, sometimes we really don't like to think about that much, but we really need to be aware. We had, unfortunately, organized a guest speaker today that was with the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services in Seattle. Unfortunately, excuse me, he is unable to join us. The government is still in a pause mode. So we've gathered a lot of information for you. I hope you're going to find it helpful. And as Bruce said, we're in open enrollment right now, and it runs through December 7th, Pearl Harbor Day. And it's, obviously we all know it's a time when beneficiaries shop for options. Lots of activity. There's a lot of sharing of personal health and identity information. It's also part of that plan observation process, trying to decide what we want to do. But we have to be careful about who we're sharing that information with, of course. So it's a time for a lot of change. And the Wall Street Journal actually just reported that several major insurers for Medicare Advantage plans are pulling out of key markets. They're shifting people from PPOs to HMOs, which means, we're finding out that maybe our plan or even our doctors aren't available to us anymore if we're on a Medicare Advantage plan. And some medical practices that are pretty major, as well as hospital groups, are leaving those Advantage plan networks. So even if your plan's available, you still might be looking for new providers. So again, whether you're on original Medicare or you're part of an Advantage plan, you have a choice. You could be seeing a lot of changes, especially during this open enrollment period. And you're probably being inundated by phone calls, mail, emails, and TV commercials on every single channel is for Medicare changes. And of course, fraudsters are joining the party. And I can tell you that Medicare fraud can take many, many forms. And there's a few popular frauds that Medicare is warning us about now. This is what we need to watch out for. You might get a call that says, Medicare cards are being issued for 2026. You're going to get a new card. So we need to verify your information. Not true. 2018, Medicare issued new cards that took off your Social Security number, gave you a new number. There is no plan to issue new cards again. Or you might get a call that's quite fearful. It says your Medicare is about to be canceled. And of course, the caller needs to, again, verify your Medicare ID number and some personal information. Scare tactics to get you to provide this information, as well as your date of birth, maybe even your Social Security number or your banking information. Another tactic. You get a call or an email that says, you're pre-approved for a better, cheaper Medicare or Advantage plan. Again, trying to lure you into giving information. Or you're eligible for a refund of an overpayment of your Medicare benefits. Medicare is especially warning about this. If it sounds too good to be true, yes, it is. It's a scheme to get your banking information so that they can refund you money that you're never going to receive. And something that's popular year over year is being notified that you qualify for free medical supplies. Often these are orthopedic, like back braces, knee braces, genetic testing kits, especially. And if you get a call like this, hang up. Again, they want to get your Medicare ID number, excuse me, so they can supply these items to you directly. Something that you should know and keep in mind. If you need supplies, contact Medicare or, excuse me, your Advantage plan directly. And find out if you qualify for free medical supplies. This should be based on what you need, not a caller saying, we can get you stuff. Keep in mind that if you're on original Medicare, you need a doctor's prescription and you have to go through a Medicare contracted supplier. That's the requirement. You might hear someone contact you saying, our plan is preferred by Medicare. Again, not true. Deceptive tactic to get you to enroll in a plan. And even if the scammer is pretending to be with a real company, so hey, it really sounds legitimate, keep in mind that Medicare and Medicaid do not, and they cannot endorse any particular plan. And, you know, a final scam that I want to mention that I have to admit I was unfamiliar with. We've been hearing a lot from Medicare about fraud related to hospice care. Fraudsters posing as salespeople are targeting older adults, sometimes even going door to door, and they're attempting to sell them hospice benefits, enroll them in those plans. So why is all this important? Well, besides the risk of each of these individual scenarios to get your Medicare information or sign you up for a plan that you don't want, what else can the fraudsters do with this information? This is medical identity theft. A criminal can get access to your medical identity, your Medicare ID number, and your personal information. And they can bill Medicare for services, supplies, and prescriptions pretending to be you. So amazingly, I've had people tell me, why should I care? Probably won't affect me. Just affects the system. We are the system, and yes, it can impact us individually. It can be fraudulently enrolling a beneficiary onto your health plan or change your health plan without you even knowing about it. And this is really an extra concern during open enrollment because there's so much legitimate change happening. And all of this could result in increased cost that you have to pay. But I want everyone to keep in mind that all of these risks are true year-round, whether you're on Medicare or whether you're on another plan. It's not just during open enrollment that we should be diligent, because if scammers get your Medicare number to bill for services you never received, it can lead not only to this medical identity theft, but inaccurate medical records and, as I mentioned, higher healthcare costs. Maybe most importantly, it can lead to you being denied coverage. If a fraudster has been billing Medicare as you for services or devices that you've never received and they've exhausted that benefit. You might need that coverage, but it's not available for you now. You're also at risk from unsolicited calls, texts, emails that could be phishing scams, fake plan offers, attempts that are non-health related to get personal information or money. Sounds scary, doesn't it? So what can we do? Well, number one, you've probably already guessed, excuse me, treat your Medicare card like your Social Security card or your credit card. Protect your number. Don't carry your Medicare card or your Social Security card in your purse or your wallet. And remember, Medicare always says that they will never, never, never call you first unless you call them. And maybe most importantly, of the things that we can do, take a few minutes and be sure and check your Medicare summary notice. This isn't a bill, it's your explanation of benefits, and you get it at least twice a year. It's either mailed to you or it's sent electronically directly from Medicare. It's going to show your Medicare Part A and Part B covered services. So all of the services and supplies billed to Medicare that they've paid on your behalf during that period, and it's going to show the maximum amount you might owe the provider. This is really important because that's the way you can ensure you're not being billed for services or supplies that you didn't get. Well, and making sure that you're on the correct plan as well. If you're on a Medicare Advantage plan, same story goes. Check your explanation of benefits. You should be getting it every month and really look at it. Take a few moments. Question anything that's unfamiliar. Check the dates with your calendar if you don't recognize something, or if you don't recognize a provider. I've done that, and I said, who is this doctor? Well, it's somebody associated with blood tests for something at a lab, and they're associated with this company. I never saw them, but it's real, it's valid. You have to check. And if you suspect fraud, if you've responded to a call, an email, or if you see something strange on your benefits report and you're kind of worried, step one, rule out a potential error, because, hey, people make mistakes and we know that the medical field is really complicated. If you have questions about anything on those Medicare summary notices, explanation of benefits, call the provider, call the plan, call Medicare, compare that to the information that you have to see if it's just a mistake. If there's no error, you suspect fraud, Medicare asks us to contact them and report it immediately. So you can call them at 1-800-MEDICARE. The line is open 24/7. It's only closed on Christmas and Thanksgiving. And we're told that wait times are typically short, typically under 4 minutes. In our current environment, I don't know if 4 minutes is correct or not, but I know that the Medicare folks, every time I've talked with them, so helpful, so nice. It's not a bad experience. And operators are trained to make sure that your fraud claim is directed to the right division within Medicare so it can be investigated. Helps prevent future fraud. And if you're not sure if it's fraud or not, or maybe you're not comfortable calling your plan or provider, reach out to the Senior Medicare Patrol in your state. I don't know if we have anybody from out of state this month, as we sometimes do, but you can, here in Washington, the Senior Medicare Patrol operates under the Office of the Insurance Commissioner. Their number is 800-562-6900. We're going to send these numbers and websites out to you after our call, so don't feel like you need to rush to get them down. And finally, if you have any questions about Medicare or Medicaid, whether you suspect fraud or not, contact SHIBA, the Statewide Health Insurance Benefit Advisors. They can help you understand and navigate your Medicare options. You can get them by phone or contact them by email. to set up an appointment. Go to your search engine and just search on SHIBA, Washington, or your state, and you'll get the contact information. So, wow, that's a lot of information, Bruce, very quickly. But as I said, we're going to send out a Medicare fraud fact sheet along with these numbers for attendees today so that you'll have that available in your email along with that survey. And really, number one thing to keep in mind, protect your number. Very, very important, and check your benefit report. Those two things are the number one and two things that you can do to protect yourself from fraud.
All right. Well, that's a lot to think about. I certainly had some new things. I'm working on getting a new CPAP sleep machine, and just the copay on it is more than I was expecting. So, like, if somebody ordered a CPAP machine and charged it to me, and I've got my account on auto pay, that could certainly impact me. So, and just kind of the dangers you mentioned of having your health record be compromised, and and not have accurate information. I mean, even things that don't seem to impact you directly can come back on you.
Yeah.
So, I think the other thing, and I think we'll talk about this again, is a time of change is always an opportunity for con artists.
Oh
And
boy.
this October open enrollment period is always a time of change when people start thinking about their new plans and get new information. But this year even more so. And con artists can come in with, have you heard about this? And you need to do that. And it can be completely false. It can be things they've completely made up, but it sounds real, and they're using events that you get from your insurance company or events from the news, and craft a scam. So I'm going to start going to questions, and DM has a good one. An example: Kaiser sent me a letter that my plan was canceled. Fortunately, I received a message notification from my Kaiser account. My doctor messaged me that my plan was canceled, but other Kaiser plans were offered, so I did not have to go to Chiba or Plan Finder. But he went directly to Kaiser for their 2026 plans. Kind of sounds like that's the right thing to do, but a lot of opportunity for confusion there. Would you have any advice for that situation?
Yeah, no, I think that makes total sense. We're with an Advantage plan as well. And we got a notice from our Advantage plan saying, here are the changes coming. And we get that every year. So I was kind of expecting it. And I was expecting the changes in the monetary copays and things that were covered or not covered. But I noticed that Jim had also noted working with an insurance broker. We have an insurance broker that we've worked with on some other items. And so he's the person I trust. I go to him. If you have a broker that you like to work with for your life insurance, other types of insurance, if they handle health insurance as well, that's not a bad option either. So something that you're initiating, that would be the key. So again, like DM said, contacting Kaiser. Yes, he was notified by them, but even if that wasn't real, he's contacting Kaiser through numbers that he has.
Yeah, I think the other thing is when I hear the phrase "your health plan has been canceled," that puts me in a panic.
Right.
And that is a well-worn tactic of con artists. If you've been on these calls before, you will know that's a common tactic across all kinds of scams, is to say something bad is going to happen and you need to take action. And the first thing is determine, is that true? And secondly, it's almost always never true that you need to do something right now, especially with someone who calls you on the phone or someone who sends you a text. You always have at least a day to think about it. If you're dealing with the government or insurance, no one moves that fast. So, it's always the classic, like the sheriff's coming to arrest you and he's on his way. No, our government doesn't work that way. It's too
Right,
slow. So
right.
just always say, well, let me step back, find out if my plan is really being canceled. And it sounds like in this question, you know, they were able to confirm with their doctor, they were able to confirm with multiple sources what was happening from multiple trusted sources, and then decide what to do. So anyway, good
Yeah,
example though.
yeah.
That when you receive a notice where it says bad thing happening, good thing happening, it doesn't matter. It takes you out of your comfort zone and can put your brain into a panic mode where you might make a bad decision you wouldn't make otherwise.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, and Bruce, you're absolutely right. And I think it's a good that you pointed it out that a lot of the things that I brought up already, they're the same tactics. They're the same things that we talk about pretty much every month. You guys probably have all of this memorized already of things that you can do to protect yourself because it doesn't matter if it's Medicare, if it's something you bought online, or if artificial intelligence is involved. The same warning red flags typically are going to come up at some point. If you know those, you've gone a long way to protect yourself, to be cautious.
yeah. Well, why don't we take a try at Kim's question? Why has Medicare stopped paying for telehealth appointments? I will say up front that we are not giving insurance advice, we are not giving medical advice, and we are not giving financial advice
Sure.
for your protection, for your situation.
Yeah.
You should definitely um, consult on all of those things with trusted sources that you know and that know your situation.
Mhm.
But having said that, I have heard, and as I mentioned up front, I've heard that this is going to happen, but I don't know that for a fact. I don't know if it will happen. Like we hear a lot of things, that are going to happen, and they end up not happening. But I have heard that this is a real thing in the news.
Mhm.
So Kay, do you have any thoughts on this? And if Jean is on, maybe she can help us out.
Yeah. And I have heard this as well. I don't know if it's true or not. I would suggest contacting either your healthcare provider that you've had televisits with in the past and ask them if it's still covered under your plan. They can go into their system on your account and look and see if that's covered or not. I would be unhappy if that was truly the case because I think televisit, especially for older adults, is so handy and so good. I do it very frequently. It's very good, handy for the doctor and for the patient. So I would ask that question. I don't know if it's true or not, but Bruce, I would like to share something that Jean has shared with me as well. And that is that there is a pilot being implemented January 1st with Medicare in 6 states across the country. Washington is one of those states. And it actually, I should have pulled this up so I could share the procedures with you all. Didn't think about that. But it actually has a listing of procedures and uh, that you would normally bill to Medicare to get pre-approved. And then you would get that approval back because Medicare would pre-approve that. A person would sit there and look at it and I'm assuming your account and say, yay. And you can go ahead with your procedure. What this new pilot program will do is assigning those set procedures, and there's several, there's like 15 of them, if I remember correctly, that now the decision of whether it will be authorized or not authorized for pre-approval will be handled by artificial intelligence. And I don't know if that, Andy's smiling, going, oh, great. I don't know if that AI decision during the pilot period will be reviewed by people, or if it will just go out if they find this is working well and we've now cut our staff. This is the deal. So something to be aware of. Again, Washington is part of that pilot program that will be starting January 1st. So if you do run into issues of, needing a pre-authorization, an approval for something to be covered, then it's declined. You might want to ask that question. If it's, what's the reason for the decline of authorization, and dig into that a little bit more.
Yeah, I would say about that is that I guess it is a pilot program, so we can, presume that it may change and be adjusted as it goes. So we will see on that, but it does add a complication. But it is only for a few procedures, as Kay mentioned. But I noticed that knee injections. I think it had something to do with knees, which is a concern for me. So I was paying attention to that. Obviously, not enough attention because I can't remember exactly what it was. But it is only for a few things. It's a pilot program, but that is happening.
Okay.
Linda comments on phone calls. I don't answer the phone if I don't know the caller, and if they leave a message, I typically don't respond unless it's from someone I know or am expecting info from. What do you think of that as a way to handle these things, Kay?
Yeah, we always say don't answer the phone in any capacity, let it go to voicemail. And then, somebody that you want to talk with, a friend, whatever, a medical appointment, they're going to leave a message for you, and you can then determine to call them back or not. So always something to keep in mind regardless.
Oh, yeah. Well, I had a friend's number show up who doesn't call me ordinarily. He sends me text, but it was the day of a Mariner game here in the playoffs. And I thought, I wonder if he's got a line on Mariner tickets, and it invited me to go. But I stayed strong, and I didn't call back, and he didn't have any Mariner tickets,
Good job.
and there was something else. So, but that was tempting though. But that's an example of the one time you pick up the phone to maybe get Mariner tickets, and it
Right.
turns out to be a scam.
Right.
So, and DMS is the pilot program for those on traditional Medicare.
Yeah. Yes, and that's my understanding. It's a pilot for traditional Medicare. So how that will roll down to any Advantage plans that bill Medicare, we don't know at this point. I know that there's a couple of comments regarding televisits as well, really critical. And I think especially with some of the changing laws at the federal level, in terms of healthcare, we don't know what's going to happen there. But as facilities close, especially in rural areas, it's getting harder and harder to be close to your provider. So really important, and something to share, I think, with your state elected officials in terms of what you want them to do to support healthcare.
All right. Well, I think we've covered the Medicare topic, and I've certainly learned a lot.
There's one more question that I do
Go
see
ahead.
from, what do I do if I've lost my Medicare?
Oh,
Yeah, you can go
yes.
to medicare.gov, and you can print a copy of your card, front and back. to have it to replace. So that's easily done if you have a printer available. And if you don't, maybe one of your friends or your kids or grandkids has that availability to replace.
Okay, okay, well, that is good to know, as well. But if anybody does have any Medicare fraud related questions, feel free to put them in the chat. But, but, uh, but for our event today, we do have some breaking stories and some updates. So, Kay, would you want to tell us about those?
Well, and Bruce, this came from you this morning. You sent me an email about a text that you got saying, "Did you get this text?" Oh no. And so I immediately grabbed my phone to see if I'd gotten it, but it was a text from, I guess the number 25707. And it looked like it was from AARP. Can you talk a little bit about what did you get? And I don't know that AARP is trying to exploit your name and membership benefits.
I did not get the text.
Oh, I'm
But
sorry. I thought you got it.
no, actually, this came out from ARP as a message, and it was sent to me by email,
Okay.
and so that's how I saw it. And it was from a trusted source. It's someone I know at ARP, and there was also a screen grab of of this text that's going out. And ARP is a big organization, can be kind of slow. So like the same thing that applies to government and law enforcement and insurance companies also applies to ARP. We do not reach out to you to ask for your personal information, and we certainly do not want you to send personal information via text message. So if you see something like that, even if it looks like a trusted source, please do not act on it. And if it's tempting to act on it, please go to the ARP.org website, or you can always send us an email at the email address that is in the invites here, and that's WAAARP@ARP.org, and we can certainly help you track that down, because a lot of times they look pretty real.
Yeah.
But like we've done our Fraud Watch Fridays on trying to identify scam texts and scam emails. So all those procedures and techniques apply to that. But sometimes ARP hears about scams going around using the ARP name, and that's always concerning. So it's always check it twice and think twice before taking action.
Right. Yep, and you can also call the AARP Fraud Watch Network helpline if you get something that looks like it's from AARP and just kind of looks strange. That number is also online at aarp.org. It's 877-908-3360. And Bruce, you'll probably put that in the chat as well. Perfect. You were ready for it.
Yeah. Yep. I've got it here to copy and paste, because I
Okay.
always say 1-800-908, and people say that's not right. It's 877.
That's right.
So, Linda asked, does ARP put fraud notices on their website? And yes, that is the case. And there is a dedicated website for the Fraud Watch Network, of which we are a part, the ARP Fraud Watch Network. And I'm going to put that in the chat. And that's got, just updates and stories and breaking news. And there's a podcast that you might want to listen to called The Perfect Scam, that has fraud stories in kind of a podcast format that is very popular. So there's a lot there.
Well, and the part that I really like, Bruce, on that website is the scam alert map. And you
Mm.
can click on the map and put in your zip code, and it'll bring up scams reports that people have made to AARP to where that are in your area, like down the street. Something happened, somebody was scammed out of $5,000, and here's how they were contacted. And a lot of times the people that are reporting it, they're going to put, like the whole story. Here's what happened, here's what I did, here's what somebody else did. And you can really go down a rabbit hole time-wise looking at these reports, because you just click on the next one and the next one and the next one. And then you can go back like once a week and see if there's anything new. And pretty soon, to heck with social media, you're looking at the scam map every day. So it's very interesting. Unfortunately, it's heartbreaking, but it will keep you informed about what's happening near you, which I think is really important, because even though we might know the neighbor on each side of us, a lot of times we don't know our community as well as maybe what we used to in the past, unfortunately.
Okay. Kay, do you have any other updates for us?
Well, I did see an update that came through on money.com. It's from the FTC. They do Money Magazine. And the I looked at it and I kind of wanted to mention it because it was a little bit different take on what we've talked about, excuse me, before. Because we always tell people, as we've talked about, if you're going to do online shopping or gas at wherever the case may be, you don't use your debit card, use your credit card. And I know a lot of people love their debit cards. I used to love my debit card. I never use it anymore. But there was a story published and then pushed out by the FTC saying debit card fraud is on the increase. And I thought, well, this might be interesting. And it was a gentleman had a story where, he paid at the pump like with his debit card, like he usually does, and then went on his way and everything looked just fine. And then he started seeing some strange transactions on his bank account. And some were just for a few dollars, some were for several $100s. And he realized, my debit card number has been stolen. And so, of course, we've talked about skimmers being installed at like gas stations to where, you slide your card and it, the code, the strip on the back, the mag strip, is stolen, and there goes your card. That's what happens with a credit card. With a debit card, you typically have to put in your PIN number. Well, this gentleman found out right away that his number had been stolen because he was in the habit of checking his bank account every morning online. And he started seeing these and he contacted his bank immediately. But part of the thing that was interesting about this to me is that the FTC says now the scammers are installing little small cameras to where if you're using your debit card, you slide your mag strip or input it, and then you input your PIN, and they see your PIN because they're taking a video of it while you're doing it. Now they've got your information and your PIN, and they can draw directly from your checking account. And, a lot of times the debit cards don't have the same robust protections as the credit cards have. Part of the key is if your debit card doesn't have one of those, a the little code that's on it. I can't think of the name of it. I'm looking at my note.
Barcode or?
Yeah, no, it's the chip. Sorry.
Oh,
Why
the chip
can't I
code.
think of
Oh,
the
yeah,
chip?
okay.
Senior moment. Okay. So if it doesn't have a chip on your debit card and you like to use your debit card, contact your institution and ask them for an updated debit card that includes a chip so you can go ahead and just tap. And then when you put in your PIN number, cover your hand and do the PIN number so only you can see. You know, if you slide the mag strip, your card number can be used over and over and over again. The chip is good for that one-time use and can't be reused for other transactions. You're shaking your head no. Is the FTC saying something wrong, Andy?
There are two different things. There's the chip. That's
Yeah,
that little square golden thing.
exactly.
Those are hackable,
Okay.
harder, but hackable. And then there are the three little bars. The tap is not the chip.
Huh?
The tap is the thing that is, in fact, very difficult to hack. Your card number never goes through. If you're tapping it, you're great. If you're just
Okay.
using the chip, where you slide it in and use the
Oh,
chip,
yes.
those have been hacked.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
So you want the tap,
You
not the
want
chip.
definitely want the tap. You don't want to either slide it in or slide it down the whole thing.
Right.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. You know, and so the key is if you don't have that chip in your debit card, go ahead and contact your institution. If and there are some protections even with your bank. And, you know, it's the key is to report as quickly as possible because if you're within a very short period of time, your bank is going to cover your loss. You're only going to be liable for like $50. If it's a little bit longer, it's going to be potentially a larger amount that you're responsible for. You know, usually notify the bank 2 business days. Your liability is capped at $50. After 2 days, it can increase to $500. And if you wait more than 60 days to notify the bank, you could be liable for the whole amount. That's based under the Electronic Fund Transfer Act. So that would be the key. And report the fraud to the FTC. File a police report. Seems like overkill, but a lot of times the bank is going to require a police report.
Wow, well, Andy, thank you for that explanation, because I have heard that tapping is safer, but I did not know why. And so now I'm gonna do it, because I try and do it, and it's just habit. It's easier for me to slide it in as opposed to tap, 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 while kind of the barista stands there and looks at me and goes like, how come you're not getting it to work? But I think it's worth the extra effort, and kind of the more we tap, kind of the better we'll get at
Definitely.
it. So definitely appreciate kind of a tip that we can actually act on, like probably this afternoon. I'm going to be safer. But I do want to get to the dating site questions. But Kay, the topic of debit cards kind of reminded me of a question that I had, and that I got a debit card in the mail, unsolicited, from a payment transfer service, Venmo in this case, that I actually do use, and I do have an account, but I don't need another debit card. I've got a debit card that I don't use based on our advice to use the credit card, but I do have it as a cash machine card. But I don't want another credit card, or I'm sorry, I don't want another debit card, but it has to be authorized. So I'm not going to authorize it, but do I need to take action to try and cancel that account? Because I did look into it and they do not make it easy. So what would your advice be for unsolicited debit cards? And like, I guess that applies to credit cards as well. Can you just ignore them if you don't activate them,
Yeah.
or what action should I take?
Yeah, I would not just ignore them and assume that it's fine just because they're not activated. There's a card number out there under your name. I would contact the institution, see if it's something that they actually sent. And, you know, if not, it's a scammer. If it is something that they sent because, oh, it's going to be so handy for you to use and access your account. Personally, if I didn't want to use it, I'd cancel it. I don't want a debit card or a credit card out there with my name on it floating around. I don't know. Andy, have you run into this before or gotten any of these cards?
Nope, nobody wants to hand me cards.
Yeah.
Oh, come on. I'm sure that's not true.
Okay, yeah, I
Uh,
mean, I would cancel it because I'm paranoid. I don't want some, even if it's valid, I'm canceling it because
okay.
I don't want it out there.
All right. Well, I think I'm going to give it a try because I shouldn't say try. I should say that I am going to cancel it,
Okay.
and I'll report back next month
Okay.
on what the process is like, and advice for people. But we had several questions about dating sites, and it started off with any list of scam dating sites, and I would say I don't know of one that ARP has, and we'd probably be leery to put out a list unless we knew for sure.
It'd be a
But
liability issue.
yeah, but certainly there are the ones that are the better known,
Hmm.
um, but that doesn't mean that there can't be scammers on those sites. But the whole idea of dating online and romance scams, a very serious subject. Kay, do you want to dive into that?
Yeah, they're very serious subjects, not something I have personal experience with, but I actually have a friend who is in the process of writing a book, 365 Days of Dating Sites, with her experience. I should ask her. But the key is, if you have the name of the site, I would go to your search engine and type that name followed by the word scam or fraud and see what comes up. And even if it's a totally valid site that is well known, as Bruce said, we know that there are a lot of con artists, scammers, fraudsters, all those people, men and women on those sites that are looking to create a relationship for the wrong purposes. So caution is the word of the day in terms of those. So like Jim says, there can be scammers virtually every dating site. Um, and oh, you know what? Thank you, Jim. This is why this is a community and everybody helps everybody else. He's saying look for information on romance scams at aarp.org/fraudwatchnetwork. Also, a lot of good information on YouTube. So both of those sites are good. Caution, our usual red flags. Keep them in mind.
Yeah. The thing about romance scams is they can really take people's life savings,
Yeah. And your health.
and ruin people's emotions life too. Um, and I've actually heard of a couple stories I was involved in documenting one. And it's interesting how people who know they've been scammed and know they've been conned by a criminal, but they're still what we call under the ether in
Yeah.
a very dramatic and surprising way. And I'm thinking of a woman in particular who was, on the younger side of ARP and owned her own business and, seemed very, very sharp. Um, but she, had admitted she'd been scammed and, said, I've been conned, I've lost all my money. But at the same time, she was looking forward to hearing from him again. And still in the back of her mind, she would say things like, I'm gonna actually meet him in person someday. And those of us who were talking with her were kind of really struck by the psychological processes at play there.
Mhm.
Very interesting, and often people who you would not think would be taken in, our desire for companionship and excitement and
Mhm.
romance and all those things that make us kind of seek out those sites can be very powerful and can override your thinking brain. So, but that is a topic that we do whole Fraud Watch Fridays on. So we'll come back to that.
Mhm.
But the short answer is no. I don't know of a way to know what sites are good or bad. But I would say even on good sites doesn't mean there's not bad people using them as a tool, to operate a scam. So you always have to be careful, unfortunately. Well, Kay, looks like we're coming to the bottom of the hour.
Yep.
Well, here's one about credit freeze.
Oh,
Always a good one.
does having
Um,
a freeze in place prevent receiving? No. So the question is, does having a credit freeze in place prevent receiving consumer credit offers? And I don't believe it does. I don't know for sure, Andy. I can't imagine that before printing up all those offers that a company is going to send out, they're going to check the credit on every person. And I think that if you were to try to take advantage of those offers, they typically have a very low amount, like you have $1,000 limit of what you can charge. And I think at that point, they probably don't care to check your credit because it's not a big liability for them. Because if you don't pay them, they're definitely coming after you to get it. But you know, if you contact them and say, yeah, I want a $20,000 credit line, then they're going to check your credit if they're even valid.
yeah, and like I just wanted to say to Linda, thanks for your comments, and I'm glad you got out before before suffering a financial loss, but it's a hard thing. But actually, this is a good segue to our topic for next month, because all of the romance games are based on deception. The scammer will try and make you believe they are somebody other than who they are, and there's a real pattern to the kind of personas they craft. And if you knew who was really scamming you, you would not be attracted to them at all, and so they know that. So it's an interesting subject, to look at the personas that get crafted. But we are coming back with AI part two. We are doing a second episode from a couple months ago that was very popular, where we dipped into that. And Kay, could you tell us a little bit about what you've got planned?
Sure, sure. We're really looking forward to it. I'm quite excited for our next month's session. As Bruce said, it's kind of AI revisited. We'll talk about AI, its role in frauds and scams. How can we tell the difference? How sophisticated are those deep fakes actually getting? I mean, is it, surely we could tell. I know last month we saw some examples and wow, they were good. But I think we've got something really fun and exciting planned for you for next month. So please take a few moments and join us, sign up. It's going to be very, very enlightening.
Yeah, I'm a little nervous to see what we're going to learn.
It's a little
Um,
creepy.
yeah, but I'm looking forward to it. It sounds very interesting, and that was a very popular
Yeah.
event. So looking forward to doing that. So I would encourage you to sign up for next month. I don't have the link to put in the chat yet, but you can find it at the website that I posted. But that won't be live till the end of today, probably. But it will be in the follow-up email that you get after today's session. And so if you want to go ahead and sign up for next month, we actually appreciate, seeing all of you who just, go ahead and sign up for next month. It helps us calculate how many people are going to be there, and see what topics are of interest. So that'll be coming up. I forget what the date is. I think it's November 21st, but at the same time and the same place. So,
Yeah.
Kate, do you have any closing thoughts for us?
Thanks again for joining us. And I just want to say, Craig Hislop, great jack-o'-lantern, terrific pumpkin. You've never looked better. Very nice.
All right, all right, well, that'll do it for Fraud Watch Friday for October. Hope you all have a happy Halloween and look forward to seeing you back here in November for another Fraud Watch Friday.
Thanks, everyone.